So in the Bible, Jesus tells us to love our God with all of our heart, with all of our soul, and with all of our mind. What does it mean to love God with all of our mind? I think that in order to answer that question, we have to think, what do we do with our minds when we love somebody? We kind of tend to obsess about people. Generally, when I feel like I'm loving somebody, I find myself thinking about what do they like, what do they want, who are they, how can I get to know them better? And those are the same sort of questions we want to be thinking about with God. What is God like? What does He want from us? What does He need us to do? How can we make Him happy? Those are questions that I think a lot of us just kind of ignore, and we focus so much on, I'm just going to give my life to God. I'm just going to give my heart to Him, but we never think, what does that actually mean? In this session, we're going to be talking about what it means to love God with all of our minds, to think about Him, to dwell on Him, to understand what He's trying to tell us in the Bible, to take that intentional time to devote our minds to God. What about you? What do you do if you really like somebody? You don't know? Good answer right now. She would? Oh yeah? Totally?
You ask him though.
Alright. There we go. How about you, Lily? What do you do when you really like somebody?
I would like to, I like to talk to them.
Yeah, you like to talk to them?
Yeah.
Good.
She stalks them on Instagram.
There you go. Why do you stalk them on Instagram?
Because they're cute. Why else?
Do you want to maybe know a little bit more about them?
Yes.
Yeah, you want to figure out what they're like, right? Yeah.
And another point for why we should not have social media. Anyway.
True enough. Social media is interesting. Anyways, so we think, point number one here is we think about things that are close to our hearts. Last time I really liked somebody, I couldn't get her off my mind. I mean, some of you know her. We're broken up now. It's a sad story. However,
Like most of Dan's.
most of my stories are sad. It's okay. But, so are my puns, but don't get me started on that.
Hey!
Anyways, so I couldn't get my mind off of her. I found myself thinking, like, what does she want with me? Like, how can I make her happy? How can I do things to please her? How can I, like, get her closer to me? How do I develop this relationship? Now, how many of us do that with God? Raise your hand if that's really something that's often on your mind. Good. So here's a good question. If that's not something that's always on your mind, how do you make that happen?
Start caring.
Ooh, there you go.
Make it a
Call people.
priority.
Make them a priority.
Caring even when you don't want to care.
Ooh, hey. Any other thoughts? All right. How do you get yourself to think about somebody? How do you get yourself to think about something? A lot of times, you just have to do it. Again, Nike symbol, just do it. I like the Nike symbol because I really don't generally live on it. I just spend my whole life thinking about stuff and never doing it. Anyways, so just do it. Also, what you can do if you really want to get to know God better, give Him some time. A lot of times what we do, we fill up our minds, our lives with so many things. We're constantly thinking about that cute person of the opposite gender. We start thinking about what we're going to get done with school, pizza. For Gracie's answers, pizza's a huge thing on my mind all the time. I love it.
Hang out for.
Yeah, buddy. Should bring pizza to Woolwich sometime again. It's always good. Anyways, so we fill our minds up with video games. That's huge for me. Books, school, that next homework assignment. You know, maybe it's that person that hurt you and you can't get your mind off of them. A lot of times, we fill our minds up with so many different things that we never really dedicate any of our mental energy to God. Did you know that each of us in a day only has a certain amount of mental energy? We can only really deeply think about a certain number of things in a day until we're just exhausted. And a lot of times, at least I know that I do this, my mind's always wandering, my mind's always doing stuff, and then at the end of the day I'm like, okay, it's time to have some Jesus time. And then I just sit there and I'm like, I can't do this. My brain is dead. I just want to be a zombie and go to sleep. And then wake up tomorrow and then I will think about God and pray and all that stuff. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that. But yeah, I have that problem. I really do. And yet it's one of the most important things to think about. Why? Because point number 2, thinking about God brings us closer to Him. I'm of the opinion that you can't get close to somebody without thinking about them, without having them on your mind, without dedicating your heart to them, without trying to figure them out. Unless you, how do you get to know somebody without thinking about them? Any thoughts?
You can't.
Yeah, you don't. Stalking them is thinking about them. I mean, I'm sure that God could use a few more stalkers.
Thinking about them too much.
Yeah, that's how you get to know somebody.
Wait,
Yes?
why don't you just talk to them?
Yeah.
Thinking about them, you don't get to know someone when you think about them. You
Well,
get
you
to
think
know
about
when you
why-
talk about them.
Have you ever had the moment where you have an entire conversation with somebody, but your mind's not really there? Then you walk away from it and go, what did we just talk about? It's like 90% of you guys in this sermon. Probably just going to walk away and just be like, what did we just talk about?
We don't want to go to
Oh, well, let's move on. You can talk to people and not get to know them.
That's really true.
Unless you actually think about what they say, unless you actually listen and hear what they're saying, you're not going to get to know them. So, here's another thing. God is thinking about us. Point number 3 in this, His thoughts are many, or His thoughts towards us are many, and ours towards Him should be too. His mind is on us. You see, in order for a relationship to work, you have to be thinking about the other person, and they have to be thinking about you. The worst sort of relationship is where you're thinking about them, they're not thinking about you. It kind of gets really one-sided and stalkery, but, how would that work? How would a relationship work if only one person was obsessing about the other person didn't really have a room for them in their lives?
Our relationship with God. Ba-da-ba.
Pretty much. A lot of times His mind is on us, our mind's not on Him. It's not a good thing. Anyways, and then point number 4, thinking about God is necessary. We cannot get to know God without having Him on our minds, without dedicating time to think about Him. That's the only way to do it. So, coming back to this question, how do you think about God? What are some ways? Because I'm sure some of you are thinking, all right, so he's talking about how important thinking about God is. How do you actually, make yourself do it? We've already talked a little bit about it. There's some different ways. Here's kind of how I do it in my personal life. I just go outside at night or very early in the morning, generally when I wake up at 4 randomly, and I'm like, why am I awake? Let's just go outside in the negative 10-degree weather. But I meet with God when I'm outside and there's nobody around. And what I'll do, I'll read a Bible verse. And then I'll just go outside and I'll ponder it. I'll just let myself meditate on it. The concept of meditation is really kind of interesting. What comes to your guys' minds when you think meditation? Maybe levitating a little bit, like, you know, becoming one with nature. Buddhist meditation, at least a lot of times, is just clearing your mind. That's the whole idea of it, is just forgetting your mind. Actually, one way that some people would do it is they would basically sit there and then they would count their breaths and they would try to count to 10 breaths without ever thinking about something else. And then every time you screw a breath up, then you go back to 1. I want you guys to try that real quick.
Can't even think of the word.
So try to take a breath without thinking anything but 1, 2, 3. I would totally believe you. But yeah, no, it's super duper difficult. And the idea would be you're basically emptying your mind and you're developing a focus to be able to do so. And you know, that's all well and cool. But what is the point of emptying your mind if you're not going to fill it with something else? Like, it's kind of pointless. You're just emptying your mind. You're getting rid of all the stuff going on in your mind. That's what video games are for. I mean, what? But no, you're basically just taking everything out of your mind. All right. So what would be something that you can do that you think, okay, I'm going to empty my mind, and then I'm going to fill it with God? Here's something that one of my Young Life teachers taught me when I was in Young Life, and I really thought that, hey, this was a really cool thing. That has really helped me. So start breathing. I want you to start breathing, let's say, in through your nose and out through your mouth, all right? All right, now I have a little prayer that you guys can pray while you're doing that. When you breathe out, I want you guys to think, may I become less. So may I become less. So that you can become more. May I become less. So that you may become more. I think that's a really cool kind of biblical sort of meditation. You're thinking about God. You're putting your mind on Him. Now, what does that mean? Becoming less. What does that mean to you?
Like emptying out things that aren't God, like you're worried about school or friends or responsibility.
Be your second priority.
Yeah.
Your second priority. Any other thoughts? Joey?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
I thought so.
I know.
What does it mean? May I become less?
I was pondering your question, and I've come up with something that will show itself.
This is called a filibuster.
I know. Becoming less?
Yes.
That means that you are crap. This is not going in well. Not
You are
going well.
crap.
Thank you. Becoming less means that you are becoming less, in a sense, less human and less focused on worldly things, and more becoming concerned on spiritual things.
Okay.
Ha!
Okay, so what does it mean, may God become more? What does it mean to be praying that, to be asking God that? What are you asking for?
To be more attuned to spiritual things, like understanding your gifts, praying for other people, and that's all I can come up with.
Alright.
For you to shine less in your life or him to shine more?
Maybe it's this. God become a priority in my life. Become a part of my life. You see, right here, what we've been doing, why I've been asking you guys questions, is to get you guys thinking. So many people, especially high schoolers, we kind of like to just zone out and just kind of get downloaded information. Like, if we want somebody to be giving stuff to us, we just want them to be like, oh, here's the information, and then let's leave. And that's really not effective. It's like reading the Bible and then never taking time to think about what it says. What is that worth? You see, in the Bible, I forget where it says, but it's basically wise man, house on the rock, and everything like that. You guys know the story? Yeah? Okay. So, at the end, it talks about basically the guy who builds a house on the rock, he listened and he obeyed. He did something wise. The guy who built his house on the sand is like somebody who hears Christ's commandments and does not obey. Now, how do you obey something without understanding it?
Faith.
Faith? Okay. So, I have a funny story. One time I was working at this place called Mountain Man, and so it was kind of a very boring job, but I had some great people. Anyway, so my boss, he handed me this order sheet and was like, okay, I want you to go pull this order. And it was like my third day there, and my boss didn't like explaining stuff. So I'm just kind of look at it, and I'm like, okay, start taking these boxes, stacking it on a pallet, stacking. I stacked about 800 boxes of stuff onto these pallets. And then I'm like, okay, so do you want to come check my work? And he's like, okay, go over there. And he just sits there for a little bit looking at it after I do that. Kind of looks at me, looks at the thing, and it's like, these are the wrong boxes. We had these certain boxes that we like shipped to the commissaries in the area, and certain ones that we were shipping to different stores like Albertsons and the Safeway. And I had pulled all the commissary ones for the Safeway ones. And why did that happen?
You didn't communicate.
You didn't know.
He didn't communicate, but I also didn't stop and think and go, wait, which ones am I supposed to do? A lot of times when we read the Bible, we do that. We go, oh, here's this. All right. Instead of going, oh, wait, how do I actually follow this commandment? If we don't think about following God's commandments, we're not going to be able to do it. It's like the wise man hearing, oh, build that house on the rock. Okay. Wait, what rock? I don't know. Maybe that one over there. All right. Oh, wait, that's sand. No, well, let's go. No. You have to think about things when you hear them from God. And that's what we're going to do with however much time we have left. Cool. So we have two verses. I think that they're in your little yellow sheets on the backs. And we're going to go over them, and we're going to think about them. How about we do the second one first? So Exodus 20, first commandment. You shall have no other gods before me. Now I'm just going to give you guys some time. I want you to think. I want you to meditate. I want you to try to not think about other stuff. I want you to try to shut other stuff out of your minds. And just think, you shall have no other gods before me. And I want you to kind of come up with some thoughts about it. First of all, what does that mean? What are these other gods? How do maybe I have that in my life? How do I get rid of that? Also, Who is this God? What does it say about God that he doesn't want us to have any other gods before him? What does that mean about him? All right, guys. I'm not going to ask you what your answers were, but what was that process like of just thinking about that verse?
Really?
You kind of smiled and giggled.
Okay, it was peaceful and quiet.
All right, peaceful and quiet. Ellie?
That God kind of doesn't want us to think of human as all powerful.
All right, so we're not all powerful. Destiny, what is that like? It's all right to say something like, boring because my mind was kind of wandering. That also works. But what was that like? Just that little point in time. It's all right, you don't have to answer. All right.
Trying to ignore the music and think at the same time.
True.
I actually really like that music.
I know, I'm gonna
It's
lie.
really good music, yeah.
It's good music.
It's really easy to be distracted, isn't it? Onion.
I think while thinking about this verse, God often just reminds me that, like you said at the beginning, that he has to be priority. That there can't be anything else that takes precedence over him and, you know, who he is.
All right. So this sort of thing is important because here's the thing. In the Bible, reading through the Bible, right? There's so much wisdom. There's so much knowledge. You can read the same verse over and over and over again and always get something new. But you will never get anything out of the Bible unless you let it get to your mind. You will never get to know God unless you let yourself think about him. I mean, I'm sure that you can have a pretty, nice and easy faith and just have God be a part of your life. And just be like, okay, yeah, no, God, he's saved me, he's taken away my sins. And kind of mosey through life and move on. But you'll never have this close, deep intimacy with God that you desire unless you let yourself think about him, unless you make yourself take the time to think about what he's saying, what he wants you to hear. It's like, okay, God has told us in the Bible, he loves you. What does that mean?
For me, it means that he knows us personally, that there's nothing about my life that's a secret to him, and yet he loves me, even knowing all of my garbage and all of my sin and all my, all the evil that I might dwell on or think about, or even temptations that I fall for. That even though I'm sinful and imperfect, he still loves me.
Ellie. So hiding that phone, all right. So what does it mean that God loves you?
Basically means that he wants to kind of like you.
All right. What does it mean that this God, the creator of the universe, this one that has hand-shaped the entire universe, that has arranged every single detail, this all-powerful, almighty God that can do anything, this limitless God who has no responsibility to love us. He's not required to love us at all. Chooses to love us. Think about that. Whoa. That's insane. A lot of times it's these questions that are too big for our brains. And we'll never completely understand God's love for us. But we sure as heck can try. We want to know as much as we can about him. So what we're going to do for the last little bit, we're going to take another few minutes to think to just read the second verse that we had, Romans 8, 1 through 8. And then I just want you guys to think about it for a little bit. And then we're going to break up into small groups and we're just going to talk about what does that mean? What is in the section of verses to think about?
You can have all my fears, God. You can have all my sins. You can have all my weakness. I know you're with me to the very end.
So, generally when I'm giving my sermons, I'm talking a lot about, what God's done for us, the love that He's given us, the amazing things that He's done, and how we can respond to that, and all these things. And this time I've just been kind of going, here's something that we can do towards God. I know it's a little bit harder to accept and receive. I know it's a little bit less entertaining, but I think that is necessary. A lot of things that, that are necessary in our lives are a little bit more difficult than the things we just enjoy to do all the time. That's rough. Deal with it. Anyways, but here's the thing. There are so many ways to think about God. It's not all, we need to meditate and study on this Bible verse. You can get creative with it. Put on a good song about Jesus and just think about it. What do these lyrics mean? What do they mean to me? Maybe just spend time talking with your friends. This is God. This is who He is. This is what He means to me. This is what God means in life. This is what He's doing in the world. Just talk with your friends. There's so many ways that you can think about God. And I'm going to give you guys one last question real quick before we break up into small groups and discuss that verse. What do you think is a way that will work for you to get your mind on God? Lily.
I was in deep thought. What was the question? I'm sorry.
What is a way that will work for you to get your mind on God?
Like set aside time, like put an alarm on your phone or whatever, and like do multiple so you can't whatever, you know what I mean?
And what will you do during that time?
Like you said, read something in the Bible and then think about it.
Ramon, what would you do with that time if you were to take it?
Probably just read the Bible. Go with the simple way of things.
All right. Brilliant.
Okay.
Great. Gracie.
I would turn on my little Spotify playlist that I have. And instead of being like, alright, well, I guess this is the time that I keep talking about music I'm going to take, actually sit there and just think about what He's already done for you instead of waiting for what He's going to do for you.
All right. That's great. There's so many ways to do it. There's so many ways to go about it. But just, guys, let's think about God. It's important.